Fertilizer, do you use it? Do you not use it? How should you use it in your garden? Do you need it for a square foot garden? Shouldn't the compost be enough? That is a great question. So I'm going to be talking about fertilizer. I will give you a tip here. With square foot gardens, you shouldn't need fertilizer, but we are just getting our started. We don't have a compost bin, creating our own natural compost fertilizer. So we are actually going to add some today, but I wanted to tell you all about fertilizer so you can decide for yourself if that's something that you want to put in your garden, or if you're going to do compost and you're going to add your own. I'm going to tell you all about the numbers on your bag, what they mean, and what you need to look for depending on what you're growing. Also, we're talking about organic versus inorganic. All right, so these three numbers on your fertilizer bag are actually really important. The three numbers are going to represent nitrogen. The first number is nitrogen, the second one is phosphorus, and the third one is potassium or potash. Some places will say either one, but here's what you need to know. The first number is all about being green. So this first number, if you are fertilizing your grass or any house plants or outdoor plants that are just green, this first number should be higher because then that will green things up. If you are looking for a vegetable garden fertilizer like we are, we want that middle number to be a little bit higher because that is for the roots and the fruits. So that is going to really help with, like, the roots being your potatoes, your carrots, your things that grow down into the ground. And then fruits, that's the flowers, that's the vegetables that are actually producing the tomatoes. So that middle number is what you're going to want to be higher. And then this last number is kind of an all-around health of the plant. I've also kind of seen that is the fruits as well a little bit. So a good idea is to get an even, all three numbers are even fertilizer so that it is kind of helping everything. But if you are specifically wanting to promote your fruit development, your vegetable garden development, that higher number is going to be your better bet. So go for a higher middle number for your vegetable garden. Okay, organic versus inorganic, which one to choose? I was kind of asking myself that this season because I have used inorganic fertilizer in the past, and I'm wondering, what's the difference? Why should I choose one over the other? Am I an inorganic farmer if I'm putting inorganic fertilizer on my garden? So here's what I found out. Both organic and inorganic fertilizers come from organic materials in most cases. So the difference is the organic has not been heavily processed, whereas the inorganic has been processed to pull out just those chemicals that we talked about. So it's a higher concentration of the chemicals. The organic is going to also include some natural animal or plant sources to be in there as well. So it's going to be more of a natural soil enhancement as well as the chemicals. So because the organic has not been processed previously, it is going to do its processing in the ground, which means it's going to, in some cases, dissolve or release a little more slowly because that processing is happening in the soil. Whereas the non-organic fertilizer, that processing has kind of already happened. It's going to be a quick shot to the plant and it's going to get those nutrients, but you're going to have to apply it a little more frequently usually because it uses those chemicals and then they're kind of gone from the soil. So the inorganic you're going to have to keep applying, and the organic you'll still have to keep applying, but it will kind of be treating the soil and giving it the health and the strength that it needs to continue for future plants, not just your current one plant that's there, but the future of the soil and the future of the garden. So you can kind of decide which one you want. Now, looking at the numbers on your fertilizer, the organic ones I think are going to tend to be a little bit lower. They are the percentages of how much of those chemicals are in the bag. So because the organic chemicals are in there, but it's also the natural plant and animal products in there as well, the numbers are naturally going to be a little bit lower. So per pound of fertilizer, like the actual chemical, the organic is going to be a little bit more expensive, but this bag was actually less, if not about the same as an inorganic fertilizer. So looking at how much chemical you're getting, it is a little more expensive for organic. Inorganic is a like hard shot of the chemicals. So it's going to be a little cheaper to just get those chemicals per bag, if that makes sense. Last and probably most important thing I wanted to talk about with organic versus inorganic fertilizer, or really just fertilizer in general, is follow the instructions. Every bag might be a little bit different. The amounts that you add, water versus fertilizer, might be a little bit different, but each bag, this is like law. You cannot, this is not guidelines, it is a must follow. So you need to follow these instructions to the T. You need to use the right amounts when you're mixing it, and then you need to put that on the right size area that it says to put it on, because if you don't, it's really gonna affect your plants. So especially if you're using inorganic fertilizers, it can burn your plants and it can ruin them. So really make sure that you are following those instructions.